Pen paling is one of my favorite hobbies, and it also happens to match some of my most loved aesthetics, those being cottagecore, dark academia, and goblincore. So I thought I would bring together all of my favorite snail mail projects with those aesthetics in mind for you guys, and here they are. For part one, I'm going to be making the paper, so I'm grabbing a few different plants and flowers from my yard, as well as grabbing some paper when I'm at my desk. I'm using black, blue, and tan construction paper for this. Starting off with the black one, I'm just going to place on this single plant, trimming off the bottom. For the blue one, I'm going to scatter these flowers, and for the tan one, I'm using 3 different ferns, also trimming off the bottom. I'm then placing all of the pieces of paper in direct sunlight, as well as adding to each a piece of picture frame glass. After 3 to 5 hours of direct sunlight, you can remove the glass and plants to reveal the print. This of course just works by the sun not being able to get to that part of the paper and fading the rest. Unfortunately, you trade off your plants not flying away for this line on your paper, so I'm going to cut around that to make sure that you can't see it. And they're done. For part 2, we're making the extras, so all of the things you add into your envelope along with your letter. Starting off with this origami butterfly, I'm grabbing this piece of paper and cutting out a rectangle. The size doesn't matter as long as you make the length 2 times the width. Then I'm going to fold it long ways and then short ways. Once it's short ways, I'm folding in both corners and then unfolding them and pressing those in between so you get kind of this house shape, and then flipping it to the side and pressing it that way. Folding down both of the legs, I'm going to unfold that and fold them down the opposite way and put it back in position so that the green is showing instead of the white. Then I'm folding in the center corners before unfolding them and dropping both the right and left far corners to the point at the bottom to create the wings. Up next are stickers, and I've showed you guys how to make these before with just plain old paper, but I decided to make some with magazine cutouts and dried flowers. I find that magazine cutouts actually work amazing because they're thinner and feel more like a real sticker, and the dried flowers look incredible. So I'm going through the same process of laying tape down on parchment, then the flower or paper, and then tape on top again before cutting around that, leaving a bit of excess so that both the layers of tape stick together. I honestly do think it's way better than with normal printer paper, and once all of them were cut out, I'm just peeling off the back and then just placing all of them onto one piece of parchment so it's a full sticker sheet. I'm doing the same thing with this candle one, adding a few more that I made earlier. If you don't want to go through the process of making stickers and you're obsessed with washi tape like I am though, you could also just send washi tape samples on a piece of parchment. I think that's super fun. You could pick colors that the person you're sending the letter to likes, and this is super simple. Fun little washi tape samples, but also really quick and easy. Up next is either pictures or magazine cutouts. I love sending Polaroids with my letters, but for right now, I'm going to turn to my IKEA magazines and look for some fun things in different sets that I think the person that I'm sending the letter to will enjoy. I find that bookshelves can hold some really fun objects, or you could look for their favorite food or a fun pattern. Once I've ripped out the pages, I'm going to cut out my favorites and also grab some cardstock, glue, and a paintbrush. I'm pasting all of the cutouts onto the paper to then cut out again with a little border just to make them a bit more sturdy, as well as add a fun colored outline. Next is either flower seeds or dried flowers. So I'm going to take this little piece of blue floral paper and fold it into this little mini envelope, doing the sides and then folding up the bottom, gluing it together. Then I'm going to place in my flower seeds and create a little slit at the base of the envelope to tuck the flap in. I'm then just writing the name of the flower on the front, which was an African daisy. And of course, for the dried flowers, you can just throw them in along with your letter. Up next are poem and puzzle cards. So I'm taking some decorative paper and cutting them to the sides that I want my cards. For the first one, I'm drawing some lines on the edge just to make it a little bit more interesting and writing riddles at the top. I'm then writing my riddle below that. You can just Google riddles and a bunch of fun ones will come up. Under the riddle, however, I'm writing the answer and then an arrow and putting the answer on that little piece of paper, and then putting dots of glue on all the corners so that they can rip it off without destroying the answer. For the poem one, I'm again just cutting the piece of paper to the size that I would like and then putting it through my typewriter to write out my poem. I'm doing this partially because my handwriting is not the greatest, but also because I really like the font of typewriters. And once I was done, I rolled it through one more time because the carriage had kind of bent it, so this made it a bit more flat. Afterwards, I signed the author's name, and this totally felt like forgery, but I think the hand signature makes it look a lot more cool. And I finished it off by snipping the corners. And they're done. To make a suggestions booklet or folder, I'm going to take a few different pieces of paper and cut out one initial rectangle. Using that as my base, I'm going to lay that on top of the same paper, trace, and cut it out so I have 2 equal pieces. Then to glue them together, I'm only going to place the glue around the outside and at the top. You do not want to glue anywhere near the center bottom because we're going to want that space open to slide in the cards. So once it's smoothed out with this ruler and I cleaned up my desk from the glue that squeezed out of it, I'm going to fold it and even up the edges one last time. Then I'm marking the sides and the center so that I can make slits in between those points to slide in the cards. Looking back, I really should have done this before I glued the pieces of paper because it was a lot more tricky trying to not go through the other side, but it worked out in the end. To make the cards, I'm grabbing those other 2 pieces of paper from the beginning and cutting out rectangles that will fit in the slots. And on these cards, I'm writing books and movies, but you could recommend songs or recipes, whatever you'd like, and then just place your suggestions below. On the front of the little booklet, I'm just making a few lines and writing suggestions. Place in the cards and you're good to go. Here are all the extras. We have made it to part 3, which is the packaging, and we're going to start off with the cottagecore one. So I'm grabbing a piece of my watercolor paper, and without making a crease, I am marking where it will make a square after folding in half and cutting it to fold it into my envelope, making sure that all of the creases are very crisp. I am unfolding it and grabbing some washi tape to stick to all of those creases to prevent the paint from going on the flaps. I'm then grabbing my watercolor and brushes, and I'm doing a light blue gradient in the background and then painting some pine trees in the foreground. I don't really know why I was feeling the wintry cottagecore vibe, but for spring or summer you could do something more like sunflowers. I was just feeling this at the time, and that's what I did. After adding some last minute details, I cleared away my painting supplies and peeled off the tape. After that, I'm grabbing my Sharpie and using my ruler to help me make the necessary squares for names and addresses. Then I'm going to flip it over and glue the 3 bottom flaps into place. With that envelope done, we're moving on to the Dark Academia one. This one's super simple. I'm just going to take some aged paper and then fold in a bit of either long sides, folding the bottom up and leaving a smaller flap for the fold down from the top. Unfolding that, I'm going to add some glue to the sides, pressing that down, and then just taking my Sharpie to decorate the front. I'm doing a few simple lines, again for the address and names, and then doodling a few candles in varying sizes. That is all for the front of that one, so we're now moving on to the goblincore one. I'm using some brown cardstock to trace out this envelope that I already had and had ripped open to get the proper shape that I wanted, and after cutting that out, I'm doing the same thing as with my cottagecore one, just gluing the proper flaps together. After that, I'm grabbing this map book that I have and cutting out a piece that I like the colors with, as well as cutting out the corner of that for the name. Then taking a smaller piece of white paper, I'm going to glue both of those pieces onto the front. I'm then doing some details with this brown marker. With the envelopes done, it is time to package up all the different aesthetics as well as close them. So after completing the letters for each one, I'm going to pack up my cottagecore one with, of course, the letter, the big sticker sheet, the magazine cutout of some strawberries, the seed envelope, and the origami butterfly. Instead of using washi tape to close it up, I'm going to make some mock washi tape, which I am taking some magazine cutouts from earlier that I took out for fun patterns from sheets or wallpaper, and I'm cutting them into small little strips, then deciding which one I think goes with it the best, and then gluing it across the back as fake washi tape. I really like this idea and I've been using it a lot recently. I think it looks super cute. For the Dark Academia one, I'm again starting off with my letter and then adding my poem and puzzle cards. Following that, I am adding in my sticker sheet and a dried rose petal. To actually seal it though, I'm going to break a bit off of this red marker as well as cutting the same amount from a glue stick. Then you're going to want to place it in a spoon you do not care about ruining, and while that's melting over the candle, pick a coin. I think one from a different country would be so cool for this. I am then cutting a popsicle stick in half and melting a bit of hot glue over the flame to stick that popsicle stick on the coin. With the wax melted, I'm pouring a bit onto the back and using our coin stamp to place on. Blowing out the candle, I am removing the coin stamp once the wax has dried, and you can see how cool this looks. I absolutely love this, and one of you guys gave me this idea, so thank you to you. The other cool thing about this is that you can really easily remove the hot glue from the stick and the coin, so you can keep reusing them. Moving on to goblincore, I am for the last time adding my letter as well as my suggestions booklet, my mushroom and frog polaroids, my washi tape samples, and my little dried flowers. For the closure, I'm using this specially made fern sticker for the back. And all of them are complete. Here's how they turned out.